Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. And in this video, we're having a look at our 3D reality when the opposite is showing up. So first of all, when we are looking out into our 3D reality, we want to be knowing that it's all to do with our thoughts, and really we kind of could look at our 3D reality as a mirror reflection of where we are on our belief system. So I know that when things are showing up that are opposite to what it is that we desire, when that does happen, though, it's actually a good thing. And I would always say validate your 3D because it's part of your process. It's part of how you are actually creating your reality. So when we try to resist it, we are actually only causing ourselves frustration. And so in those moments, it's always about how we respond. And so if we notice that there is something that is triggering us, all it is about, okay, well, this is not what I want to experience. So I'm actually going to go down the road that I prefer. So what is it that I need to believe about myself in order to experience what it is that I prefer? So when we are understanding manifestation, conscious manifestation, really there is no understanding, there's nothing to learn. It is actually who we are. So if we look at ourselves as just being one consciousness, and everything coming into our reality is basically a physical representation of our thoughts and our belief system, and how we continue to either relate to past experiences or to allow them to come up and let them go. So when we look at it from this perspective, then we understand that everything is being created through us, that the whole entire universe is actually coming through us, through our thoughts and our perceptions. Now, when we are looking out into our 3D reality, and I know that it can be frustrating if we say to ourselves, well, I've been affirming for this amount of time, I've been doing this, and things are not changing, things are still showing up the way that they are. But in those moments, that is actually where we need to catch ourselves and say, no, thank you for showing up, but I have the freedom to choose. Because I have the freedom to choose, I'm not choosing this reality anymore. I'm choosing to go down the road that I prefer. Now, if this is still happening in my reality, maybe I need to look at my belief system and I need to ask myself and continue to do this. This is a lifestyle change. We continue to ask ourselves and persist through. And we say to ourselves, what exactly do I need to believe about myself in order to experience this reality that I am desiring? Because the experience of our reality is actually coming through us. So you are the experience of your reality. You are the manifestation. And the question was put to me about the fear of not getting manifestation, but there's actually nothing to get because you are the manifestation. Everything that you are experiencing is coming from thoughts, perceptions, beliefs. And when we know that we are consciously manifesting, now the only reason why we're getting more frustrated with our 3D reality is because we know that we've heightened in our mind. Our mind is elevating more. We're transcending over this. And the moment then that we continue to get frustrated when we're not seeing things changing is just really bringing us back down into the old reality. But that is when we say, no, no more. That's it now, okay? Thank you for coming into my experience because you have brought me to this point in my life. And while I thought that these beliefs were serving me, I no longer think that anymore. And so I'm going down the other way. I'm choosing to go down the reality that I prefer. So always validate exactly what you're going through in the moment, because the moment you validate it is actually you identifying with the new reality, because you're not afraid to validate what's going on. You're saying, okay, I validate you right now, but I'm letting it go because I'm actually going into this new reality and experiencing what it is that I prefer. So never think that you don't get manifestation. Never think that there's something to understand, because you are the manifestation. Everything that you experience in your reality is changing according to how you continue to persist. Now, I know that when we are maybe getting frustrated with affirming and doing all of these different practices and thinking that, I'm doing all this and still things are not changing, then it can cause us to think that we don't get things. But that's an illusion in itself. when we look at time is the biggest thing probably that catches us, because we start to look at the time and we start to say to ourselves, well, I've been doing this for this amount of time, but really it's no time at all, because time is an illusion and everything is in the present moment. So while we are creating in our reality, we have no idea what's happening in the next moment. We don't know what's going to happen when we walk out the door. We don't know what's going to come into our reality. But what we are doing is we are changing our beliefs and identifying our beliefs. And while we're doing that, we're actually trusting in the unknown. And because we're doing that, we're becoming more aware of our reality, and we're actually vibrating on a different level, because everything is frequency. We're tuning into different frequencies, and these frequencies that we are tuning into, that we are matching up to, is what we are attracting into our reality. And so obviously, if we're going to think good thoughts and we're going to continue to be optimistic and continue to allow ourselves to trust and know that whatever is going on right now is actually working in my favor and leading me down to exactly where I need to be, because everything is right on time. Divine order is right on time. Everything is in the present moment. Well, then obviously you're going to be attracting all of these positive situations to you. The opportunities will just come. So really, when things come up that are opposite, it's only because we have a knowing of what it is that we prefer. So obviously there are opposites in our universe. There's a negative and there's a positive, but it's always up to us to choose exactly how we're going to interpret it. So everything that we actually see in our reality is coming from our definitions and our meanings and our belief system. So why I talk a lot about our nervous system and to regulate the nervous system is because our nervous system is, through our whole life experience, holds on to the emotions that we experienced through our life up until this point. So if it's not regulated and we find ourselves in a state of stress, it's connected to our subconscious, it's connected to our reticulating, activating system. And so the first thing it's going to do is look for all of the beliefs that served us before, even if these were negative beliefs, but they suited us in the moment. So let's say we allowed ourselves to be victimized and we allowed ourselves to believe in the negative, and this caused our nervous system to feel suited because this is what it knows. That's exactly what it's going to look for then when we're stressed. So that's why we do the breath work, because the breath work actually in that moment calms the nervous system and it stops it from looking back over the past, looking back into the old belief system. And as we are using our affirmations and we're identifying beliefs and we are overcoming them and we're walking into this new experience that we prefer, it's going to start going, if it knows that if the nervous system knows that it's been suited with the breathwork, meditation, anything that it does in the moment to feel good, well, it's always going to then start looking for the good. Now, I want to talk about anyone who is on this conscious manifesting journey as well, who looks at YouTube videos, who has come into the law of assumption. Understand that there's only been a couple of years since we've all really been learning about this, because I know from my own experience, I've learned about, I first came across the law of attraction about well, it's not even 10 years ago now, it's about 8 years ago. And so it was about The Secret was brought to me by a friend, and that's how I learned about the law of attraction. Then I learned about Esther Hicks and channeling Abraham. I never really could understand the law of attraction. I always felt like you had to be in a high vibe and all of this kind of thing, until a couple of years ago, 2021, which we're in 2023 now, but it was the beginning of 2021, so about 2.5 years, when I came across the law of assumption. So I understood then that when the law of assumption was starting to become popular in that year, for me anyway, that is when I started to understand the law of attraction. That is when I started to know that our thoughts create. Now, along that road, it's only been 2.5 years for me along that road, but there's been so many ups and downs with my thoughts. I've spiraled and I've felt like things weren't changing, all of those kind of things. But I persisted through all that, and I still persist through it, and it's a lifestyle change for me. And what I've noticed now as well, and it's literally only 2.5 years, which when you think about it, it was probably a lot of us up here as well too, because it's kind of the law of assumption really only started getting popular within the last 3 years. So when you think about it, we're all really only coming into it in the past couple of years. So all of those years that we had before, when we weren't watching our thoughts, we obviously, there's going to be a bit of a process to persist through and to let go of the old story. But what I've noticed is my responses to my reality are changing, and I know that along the way in this couple of years now, I did have periods where things would be up, but then I've also had periods where things were down and thinking, am I not getting this? What is going on? But the more that we learn, the more that we continue to change your thoughts, and your mental diet, your flipping thoughts, or you're validating yourself, allowing yourself to feel, and all of these kind of things, you're starting to transcend more. Your responses are becoming different within yourself. It's you're becoming this new person in itself. And look, I don't want to be limiting here, but that does not happen overnight, because it hasn't happened overnight for me to actually shift into this new way of being. Because in the past, my past self had always been somebody who would experience anxiety within herself from thoughts and negative assumptions, things like that. Now, not all the time. Obviously, I have created things throughout my life without knowing about the law of assumption that were positive and all that. But a lot of the time, you beat yourself up and things like that, because you're not understanding that everything is coming from your thoughts. But now that we know better, we do better, and our responses automatically start to become more positive the more that we persist, the more that we understand that this is a thought game and it's a process. For me, it does not happen overnight, because I am someone who really wants to have the nervous system regulated. I want to learn more, and I do manifest things. Manifestation is always instantly, and especially when it comes to people, I've noticed that I can manifest things that I would be just thinking, and either they would be thinking about me, or a couple of days later, that person will reflect back to me verbatim the exact thing that I was thinking about, little things like that. But what I noticed that as well too, when when these things are happening, it really it solidifies your belief more within yourself, but it also makes you understand that everything is coming from your thoughts. You become more aware, everything's becoming more clear now. It's like we're all kind of waking up to this idea that we know that everything is thoughts. But using an affirmation and thinking that that's going to cut it is, from my own experience is what I'm talking about. It's not always the way. Sometimes there are opposite things that have to come up. Sometimes circumstances do come up, but it's all about how we respond to it. It's all our choice. We have free will, so we can choose to see things in a different way. And the more that we continue to do that, that is how it's all going to change in our reality. We become more equipped with it all in our reality. So I wanted to acknowledge this question that was asked of me, because it was a very, very, very great question, because this is our life, and it's what we actually have to continue to persist in. It's not even just for us, it's for the whole of humanity, because if we are allowing ourselves to respond in a more positive way to everything that is going on, we are actually shifting into a new vibration, which is going to have a ripple effect across humanity. And so all of these videos that are up here on YouTube, we should be looking at them as a way to shift the consciousness of all of humanity, so that in the future things are going to start unfolding in the best way for everyone. That we are actually the most important factor to the future when you think about it, because it's starting with us. If we look to YouTube now, or we look to a lot of things now, we're all kind of understanding that we are creating everything from thoughts. And if we had done, if you know, it's becoming more potent now, whereas 10 years ago it wasn't as potent. But in this time space reality right now, in this moment, there are multiple platforms that are talking about the same thing, that are shifting the consciousness into a higher vibration. So when we see circumstances, we know that that's the old way of being, and all we have to do is just validate them. Don't push them down, validate them and say, okay, well, look, if this is popping up now and I'm feeling this way and I'm thinking this way, let me just validate it right here, right now, because I'm not going to push it away. I'm going to have the courage, and I'm going to say to myself, what do I need to believe about myself in order to experience the reality that I prefer? So I'm going to dive into this now, and I'm going to be thankful that this showed up, because how I respond is telling me the belief that I just have to work on a little bit more, the belief that I just have to persist on a little bit more in order to continue to develop and elevate in my mind and in my body. So never worry about time, because everything is perfect. Everything is unfolding in the perfect time for us to continue to learn and to continue to elevate in our reality. And anything that you are wanting to experience in your reality is unfolding. You could look at it as already existing, because we are only in the present moment. So if a reality that you can imagine in your mind, that you have a thought in your mind, that you if you're able to think about it, it means it already exists. And it's up then to us on how we choose to get there. And if we're continuing to choose to, if we're continuing to choose to look at circumstances like that's the end now, I'm not going to get it, well, then that's what we're going to create. So we have to just kind of step up and say, look, this isn't just about me anymore, it's about the whole of humanity. How am I going to contribute to the whole of humanity? Am I going to say that all of these circumstances are actually they're never changing, or am I going to say, no, I am going to experience exactly what I desire to experience? And when as I do that, the people around me are going to see that, and that's going to actually call them into it, because they're going to be like, how did you do that? I'd like to know how to do that. And then you're lifting somebody else up as well too. So it's like if we look at it from that perspective as well, it kind of shows us that it's paramount to our existence to keep going, to persist in everything that we desire, because along the way, while we will experience what it is that we are thinking. That's inevitable, because even if you go onto YouTube, you see all success stories and everything like that, it's inevitable. I see it in my own reality as well too, my thoughts creating as well too. So all of this is just feedback telling you that you're on the right track. So don't worry about days that are seeming like you're not on the right track. They're just there to teach us, to tell us to keep going, to say that you're on the right track. And no matter what is going on, if you continue to say, no, that's not what I prefer, this is what I prefer, obviously what you prefer is going to show up in the right time for you in the perfect way as well. So just remember that it's a lifestyle change, and to understand as well that when we choose to think about what it is that we desire, rather than succumbing to circumstances, we feel happier within ourselves as well too. So if we're feeling happier within ourselves, we continue to do things that cause us joy. We think anything at all, even reading a book, or going to see a movie or anything like that. As we continue to do that, we start to feel like we're having a great day. And as we continue to do that in each day, obviously then more things are going to be attracted into our reality, because we're matching a frequency out there in the universe that is causing us to attract it as well too. So I just wanted to acknowledge that question that was asked of me. If you have any questions, you can comment down below. I will make more content on this if it is required, but for now I will chat to you soon. Thank you.